What do you see when you picture the richest people in Miami? Well, the answer involves a black man who bought an entire social club after they finally let him through the door, a toddler with a $300,000 net worth, and a private equity titan worth $12 billion that this city barely knows by name. But these are only 3 of the 8 richest black dynasties that own Miami, and they each have a wealth story nobody is telling loudly enough. Let's fix that. Number 8. The Mashburn Dynasty. The most quietly dominant athlete-to-CEO story in Miami. Most people remember Jamal Mashburn as a high-scoring NBA forward who played with genuine flair during his Miami Heat tenure. What most people don't track is what he did after, which is, without overstating it, one of the most complete professional reinventions in the history of American sports business. Mashburn earned $75 million in NBA salary across his career. That's the starting capital. What he did with it is the story. He now owns over 90 businesses, a number that sounds like an exaggeration until you actually inventory it. 38 Outback Steakhouse locations, 40 Papa John's franchises, 3 Dunkin' Donuts, and multiple car dealerships representing Toyota, Lexus, and Porsche across the Southeast. His net worth sits between $100 million and $110 million, and the wealth is not passive in the celebrity investment sense. It is operationally active, systematically managed, and built on a philosophy he calls institutional scale. The idea that a diversified portfolio of proven service businesses generates more durable wealth than any single venture ever could. Think about what that actually requires. You cannot own 40 Papa John's franchises without understanding real estate, staffing, supply chain logistics, marketing, and multi-unit operations at a level of detail that most MBAs never encounter. Mashburn essentially built a mid-sized private corporation using his basketball earnings as seed capital, and he did it quietly, without a Netflix documentary or a social media presence built around the flex. His attempt to purchase the Charlotte Hornets for $275 million and his current interest in facilitating the return of the Seattle Supersonics signals the next chapter. A move from operations into sports ownership that would put him in the room with the people who own the leagues, not just the teams that play in them. In Miami, he functions as a mentor to current Heat players and a fixture at business summits, providing the blueprint for what athlete to CEO can actually look like when the transition is executed with operational discipline rather than wishful thinking. Next up, we have a name that built his empire on something completely different: his voice, his energy, and a baby who somehow became an executive producer before mastering object permanence. Number 7. The Khaled Dynasty, the loudest brand in Miami. DJ Khaled is Miami personified. Loud, warm, relentlessly positive, with a specific gift for making everything he touches feel like an event, and then monetizing that event in ways that most people in the room don't notice until the deal is already done. His net worth sits between $75 million and $100 million. His annual earnings hover around $35 million. And his $25.9 million waterfront Miami Beach estate is the production studio for a content operation reaching over 110 million social media followers globally. His wealth model is built on what might be called pure synergy. Every sponsorship deal, from Dolce & Gabbana to Nike to T-Mobile, is woven into his musical output and his social media persona simultaneously. The lifestyle promotes the brands. The brands fund the lifestyle. The content documents both. It's a self-sustaining loop that most influencers attempt and almost none execute at this scale, because executing it requires both genuine cultural credibility and the business infrastructure to convert that credibility into institutional partnerships. And then there's Assad. His son, Assad Khaled, has been credited as an executive producer on albums since he was a literal infant, a move that generated global headlines, significant social media following, and an estimated net worth of $300,000 before he reached double digits in age. Whether you view this as inspired family branding or the most elaborate toddler business card in history, the outcome is the same. The Khaled name is now being established as a multi-generational commercial asset before Assad can even drive. His Another wing chicken delivery chain has scaled to 150 locations worldwide using digital marketing as the primary growth mechanism. He maintains a fleet of Rolls-Royces. He collects luxury watches and sneakers with the systematic enthusiasm of someone who understands that physical objects are content when you have 110 million people watching. He has publicly expressed interest in buying a stake in the Miami Heat. In a city that has always rewarded people who show up with maximum energy and refuse to tone it down, Khaled is not an anomaly. He is the archetype. The loudest brand in Miami and a baby who executive produced an album. Now, let's head to the next man on this list, who is slightly more reserved, unless you count the Shark Tank he wants to install in his living room. Number 6. The Ross Dynasty. A welcome gift from Diddy that only makes sense in Miami. Rick Ross bought a $35 to $37.5 million mansion on Star Island in 2023, which in most cities would be the headline. In Miami, it's almost the footnote, because what matters about Star Island is the zip code. His neighbors include Ken Griffin, one of the most powerful hedge fund operators in America, and Gloria Estefan, and a roster of global names whose addresses alone function as a form of institutional credibility. Ross moved in, and the city treated it as the natural completion of a story that had been building for decades. His net worth sits at approximately $150 million, built on a foundation of strategic diversification that started in music and systematically expanded outward. He owns over 25 Wingstop franchises, real operating businesses generating real cash flow. He holds equity stakes in Luke Belair, Rap Snacks, and Checkers. His Star Island estate is 12,400 square feet, features 100 feet of water frontage, and comes with a 40-foot dock for his yacht, because Miami doesn't reward understatement. His sister, Tawanda Roberts, serves as his primary real estate broker and the oversight mechanism for his high-value property acquisitions, keeping the asset management within the family, rather than delegating it to external parties. That's not a small detail. In the world of high-net-worth real estate, having someone whose loyalty is structurally guaranteed is a significant operational advantage. The welcome gift is the detail that makes this entry. When Ross moved to Star Island, Diddy, who was already a neighbor, gifted him a custom golf cart as a welcome to the neighborhood gesture. A custom golf cart as a housewarming gift. Between two people whose net worths are measured in tens and hundreds of millions. Miami is genuinely its own thing. The Shark Tank plan for his formal living room, installed as a reference to the Scarface aesthetic he has long cultivated, may or may not be complete. But the fact that it's a documented aspiration tells you exactly what kind of relationship Rick Ross has with the concept of subtlety. A Star Island mansion, a Diddy golf cart, and a planned Shark Tank. Number 5 built something even more quietly extraordinary, and he did it by first becoming the only black member of a Miami institution, and then buying the whole thing. Number 5. The Peebles Dynasty. He joined the Bath Club. Then he bought it. Don Peebles has a line on his Miami biography that belongs in a textbook about how power actually works in exclusive institutional spaces. In 1996, he became the first black member of the Bath Club, one of Miami Beach's most prestigious private social clubs. And then eventually, he purchased the entire club, preserved its historic structure, and built a luxury residential tower on its former tennis courts. That is not a metaphor. That is a sequence of events. Join the room. Buy the room. Build on top of it. His net worth is estimated between $350 million and $700 million, with a development portfolio valued at approximately $5 billion to $8 billion across gateway cities including Miami, New York, and Washington, D.C. His Miami connection is foundational in the most literal sense. He was the first black man in the country to own and develop a major hotel, the Royal Palm Hotel on Miami Beach, which he eventually sold for $127.5 million, a record at the time. His business model, which he calls affirmative development, focuses on luxury projects in markets where public-private partnerships are available, and where ensuring meaningful economic participation for minority and women-owned businesses is built into the deal structure, not retrofitted as a PR consideration. That approach has opened doors to contracts that traditional developers can't access, creating a competitive advantage rooted in both ethics and economics. The Peebles Corporation is a genuine family enterprise. His wife Katrina is the creative director, responsible for the interior design and architectural vision that defines every project. His son, Donahue Peebles III, a Columbia University graduate, serves as executive VP and COO, managing new acquisitions and the execution of the multi-billion-dollar development pipeline. Their daughter Chloe competes as an equestrian, which tells you something about where the family sits in the social fabric of South Florida's most exclusive circles. The family's former Coral Gables residence, the House of Trees, a mansion famous for its canopy of 88 oak trees, sold for approximately $13 million in 2021. They have moved toward even more exclusive holdings since. The Bath Club, though, remains the signature Miami chapter. The man who was once made to feel like a guest in a room eventually became its owner. That's the Peebles model, applied to real estate and applied to life. First black member, then owner, then developer. The next dynasty didn't buy a social club. He built a $725 million media company and demanded equity in everything he touched, starting in Miami and ending everywhere. Number 4. The LeJames Dynasty. Equity over endorsements and a $725 million media company. Here is a question that reframes everything about how LeBron James's wealth actually works. When was the last time he accepted a simple endorsement deal? The answer is essentially never. Not in the traditional sense anyway. James's financial model is built on the demand for equity, not fees. Early investor in Beats by Dre, which Apple acquired for $3 billion. Equity partner in Blaze Pizza. Minority owner in Fenway Sports Group. These are not endorsements. These are ownership positions in companies that appreciate independently of whatever LeBron is doing on the court. His net worth sits between $1.2 billion and $1.3 billion, making him the first active NBA player to achieve billionaire status. And a significant portion of that trajectory was built in Miami. During his time with the Heat, he wasn't just winning championships. He was learning from one of the most sophisticated ownership and management environments in professional sports exactly how wealth at the institutional level actually gets built and protected. His Coconut Grove waterfront mansion, purchased for $9 million during his Heat tenure, was sold later for a significant profit. The real estate instincts and the business relationships formed in Miami during those years were part of the education. Spring Hill Company, the $725 million media and entertainment enterprise he co-founded, is the clearest expression of what that education produced. It's not a production company that makes content about LeBron. It's an institutional media vehicle that tells stories about underrepresented communities and athletes with LeBron's cultural credibility as the access mechanism and his business infrastructure as the operational backbone. His wife Savannah runs her own philanthropic and entrepreneurial operations. His son Bronny is now in professional basketball, extending the family's direct connection to the sport that created the initial platform. His daughter Zuri's social media presence is already being developed as a commercial asset. The dynasty isn't being built for LeBron's generation alone. It's being constructed with the next generation's trajectories built into the architecture. Equity in everything. $725 million media company. A Miami foundation that shaped a billionaire. Now the next man didn't need a media company or a sports league to get to $1.4 billion. He needed a golf club, an architectural firm, and a drone delivery system for beverages. Number 3. The Tiger Woods Dynasty. A $1.4 billion empire built on architecture, technology, and the most private golf course in Florida. Tiger Woods is worth approximately $1.3 billion to $1.4 billion. And the most interesting thing about that number is how little of it came from playing golf. His PGA Tour earnings, extraordinary by any athletic standard, are essentially a rounding error in the context of his actual financial architecture. The real wealth is in TGR Design, his golf course architecture firm, TGR Ventures, his broader business holding entity, and TMRW Sports, his co-venture with Rory McIlroy that is building TGL. a tech-infused golf league that uses a custom-designed indoor simulator facility and leverages Miami's status as a media hub to reach a global sports audience. His Jupiter Island estate, 12 acres, valued at over $50 million, featuring a private practice facility, an oxygen therapy room, and multiple pools, is not a residence. It is an infrastructure compound for someone who approaches his own body and his own business with the same engineering precision that defined his playing career. Jupiter Island itself is the most exclusive residential corridor in the United States, placing Woods among neighbors whose names carry weight in finance, sports, and global business simultaneously. And then there's the Grove 23. His private, members-only 18-hole golf course is designed to be a Michael Jordan-centric experience. Wait, that's Jordan's course. Woods' operation is different but equally deliberate. A private facility that reflects his specific vision of what golf should be, without the compromises that come with designing for a public audience. The drone delivery of beverages on course is either the most efficient hospitality solution in the history of golf or the most specific possible expression of, "I have the resources to solve whatever bothers me." Probably both. His restaurant, the Woods Jupiter, has become a genuine local landmark, the kind of place where both tourists and locals with the right reservations end up, and where the Woods brand operates at a ground level that keeps it tangible and present in the community. His son, Charlie, is developing on the junior golf circuit. His daughter, Sam, is being raised inside the infrastructure of a family whose name is one of the most recognized on the planet. A $1.4 billion empire built on course architecture and drone-delivered drinks. Now the man at number 2 turned $3 billion worth of Charlotte basketball into the most liquid exit in sports history. And he did it from a private compound in Jupiter that he built to be its own universe. Number 2. The Jordan Dynasty. $3.8 billion empire with an unbelievable backstory. Michael Jordan's net worth sits between $3.5 billion and $3.8 billion, and the number keeps moving in the right direction for a specific reason. The Jordan brand, his division within Nike, generates approximately $7 billion in annual revenue. Not his net worth, his revenue from a single brand partnership per year. That is not a celebrity endorsement. That is a commercial empire that has been compounding since 1984, surviving every phase of sports culture, fashion cycle, and generational shift, and somehow emerging stronger on the other side of each one. The 2023 sale of his majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets for $3 billion was the other transformative financial event of this decade for him. He purchased the franchise for $275 million in 2010. He sold it for $3 billion in 2023. The return on that single investment, over 13 years, is the kind of number that belongs in a private equity presentation, not a sports transaction. It also gave him enormous liquidity, converting a largely illiquid ownership stake into cash that can be deployed across whatever opportunities his Jupiter, Florida Command Center identifies next. That compound, a 28,000 square foot fortress of privacy in Jupiter's Bears Club, is where the Jordan Dynasty's next chapters are being written. The Grove 23, his ultra-private 18-hole golf course nearby, is the social infrastructure, an environment designed entirely around his preferences, where drone delivery of beverages is standard service, and where access is curated with the same precision he once applied to defending the perimeter. His family dynamics are managed with corporate discipline, his children being integrated into the brand ecosystem with the same intentionality that defined his playing career. His Miami presence runs through the Grand Prix circuit, through the city's elite hospitality scene, and through the cultural gravitas of someone whose arrival at any establishment immediately shifts the energy of the room. At $3.8 billion, with a brand generating $7 billion annually, and the liquidity from the Hornets sale sitting in reserve, Jordan is not a legacy figure managing diminishing returns. He is an active financial operator at the highest level, working from a Florida compound that most of the state doesn't know exists. $3 billion from a basketball team sale and $7 billion a year from a shoe. But wait till you hear about the man at number 1, because he makes both of those numbers look like a warm-up. Number 1. The Robert F. Smith Dynasty. The most consequential giving pledge in Black philanthropic history. Here is the number that frames everything else on this list. 30%. That is the approximate annualized return that Vista Equity Partners, the firm Robert F. Smith founded in 2000, has delivered to its investors since inception. Not one exceptional year, not a decade of strong performance. 25 consecutive years at approximately 30% annually. Applied to the formula of compounding returns, that trajectory has produced over $86 billion in assets under management and an individual net worth estimated between $10.8 billion and $12.4 billion, making Smith the wealthiest black individual in the United States and the wealthiest person with a primary residential footprint in Florida. His Palm Beach and North Palm Beach residences are not vacation properties. They are the operational center of a family whose wealth architecture runs through enterprise software, philanthropic capital deployment, and the cultivation of a legacy that Smith has been deliberately and publicly constructing for over a decade. His wife, Hope Dorachik Smith, a former model and television personality, functions as a genuine partner in the philanthropic and social dimensions of the family's public identity, not a background figure. Their 4 children are being raised within the infrastructure of a dynasty that Smith has been explicit about building to outlast him. His investment thesis is deceptively simple in its framing. Buy software companies that other businesses cannot function without, apply a standardized operational playbook to make them more profitable, and hold them long enough for the compounding to do what compounding does at 30% annually. The actual execution of that thesis, identifying the right companies, structuring the right deals, managing the right teams across $86 billion in assets, is anything but simple. But the clarity of the model is part of what has made Vista the most consistently performing private equity firm in its sector. The Morehouse moment is the one that the public knows best. In 2019, he stood before the graduating class of Morehouse College and committed to personally eliminating every dollar of their student loan debt, approximately $34 to $35 million, deployed in a single gesture that reframed the national conversation about targeted philanthropy, the racial wealth gap, and what it looks like when someone uses a billion-dollar fortune as a genuine instrument of systemic change rather than a monument to themselves. He had already become the first African American to sign the Giving Pledge, a commitment to dedicate the majority of his wealth to charitable causes during his lifetime. The DOJ settlement exists in the same biography. In 2020, Smith reached a $139 million agreement with the Department of Justice and the IRS over a tax investigation involving offshore accounts. He acknowledged the conduct and paid. That chapter and the Morehouse chapter are both real, both documented, and both belong to the same person, which is what makes the Smith story more interesting than a simple wealth ranking can capture. The complexity is the story. And that's a wrap on the 8 richest black dynasties who own Miami, each with a completely different blueprint for what black wealth looks like when it's built with intention, scale, and a willingness to do things on terms the market didn't design for you. Which one of these stories impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into how black wealth is prospering across America, take a look at Black Status.